Oh, whoops. Hang on one second, Stacy. 1 second. There we go. Okay, here we are.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, let me turn this off. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess which one of us wants to say it, right? Which one of us wants to read what we're talking about? Okay, I'll read it because, why not? All right. So today, the White House press secretary gets up there, and it's funny that she left it for the last bit of the press conference.
Right.
And announces that the president and the White House are going to select the pool, which maybe people are not familiar. And by the way, I'm Lauren Burke, and this is Stacey Brown. He's the host of Let It Be Known for Black Press USA. I'm Lauren Burke, and I am a writer for Black Press USA and a member of the press, also a person who has been a federal government employee and an employee in the state government in New York and Virginia. We're both very knowledgeable about the White House, the way the pool works. Stacey, you've actually been there more than I have in the last few months. But at any rate, we got an announcement today that the White House press pool selection, the president, Donald Trump, wants to select the White House pool. What this effectively means is state control of the media, government control of the media. There is no other way to say that, because the press pool, the traveling press pool that travels with the president, they put out the specific reports as to what he's doing when he's traveling, and in the White House, actually, and in the White House. And that group of people is typically the legacy media operators, Associated Press, which they blocked, and Associated Press went to court with the president this week and incredibly kind of lost that first round. But I don't know that'll probably turn back around, but it's amazing that they lost that first round in court. At any rate, it's typically Associated Press, Reuters, and the big legacy 3 networks, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC. What clearly this White House is going to do is assign the most friendly media that they can find to cover this president. But go ahead, Stacey, talk. Go ahead.
Oh, listen, you're spot on. I'm reminded that in 2017, a year before he died, John McCain, it was around this time in 2017, it was around mid to late February, where Donald Trump was in office, and the late John McCain, had it spot on. He said that Trump's declaration then that the media was the enemy of the American people was extremely dangerous. He said he likened it to the start of a dictatorship. That was John McCain's words. And he says, I'm not saying that this is a dictatorship, but this is how it starts. And he himself, McCain said, and I quote, he says, I hate the press, but the fact is we need you. We need the free press. We must have it. That was John McCain's words. And we're seeing it now. This second term, that was the first term. Second term has been, the first term was a test run,
right,
of what I can do, what I can, what I can get away with. And then the Supreme Court came along and said, you can get away with whatever you want.
That's right. That's how.
So here we are.
Yeah, and clearly one of the patterns of Donald Trump that is very obvious, that is always amazing to me that people have not just kept repeating over and over, is that he kills anything that has anything to do with accountability. If you have anything to do with accountability, he is trying to get rid of you. So what did he do in the first 48 hours? He gets rid of all the inspector generals and all the agencies. What do inspector generals do? They, of course, look out and clean out corruption and wrongdoing, et cetera, within the agency in an internal way. Then he's going after the FBI. Now we're hearing that the new FBI director, who is of course not qualified to hold that position, Kash Patel, is trying to move 1,500 personnel from the FBI out of the Washington, D.C. area into Alabama. The Consumer Protection Agency. So the Consumer Protection Group the Consumer Protection Agency he's trying to kill was saving Americans money through finding waste, fraud, and abuse. And of course, he goes after that. I mean, the first things they went after were accountability. And of course, the media is the last accountability. And even though the media is not, in my view, in this moment, in this era, not doing a particularly good job, it's still doing something. You've got some news bureaus, you've got some news platforms there that do a really good job at investigation. And that is what he goes after.
Oh yeah, and when you talk about those who do some investigation, say for instance, ProPublica, um,
Mhm.
when are they going to go after them? That they have to be concerned about that. AP, they've gone after AP. This started with AP, right?
Right.
But Reuters, Reuters is another one that they have actively gone after. We know that he's made the New York Times the enemy of the state,
Right.
and so long ago, as well as CNN. And look, CNN is pretty much irrelevant now, and it's largely due to Donald Trump.
Right. That's right. Well, Reuters, it's funny. AP and Reuters to me are the best when it comes to just giving you the straight news in terms of just straight factual news. Part of the problem here is what happened was there was an issue with these news organizations getting, I think, a little bit too partisan. I think that really starts with Fox News and was followed up by MSNBC. And I think MSNBC's attempt to counter Fox News. And now what has now happened is that it used to be that you kind of tried to pretend that you were not partisan. Now Fox News is effectively state-run media. I mean, they are there to do
It is.
PR work. They're doing PR.
It's 100%. Yep.
It's amazing. And the Sinclair Media Group is the other one out there that is not even trying to pretend to be objective. It is PR for the White House. That is what it is. It is past this idea that it used to be just that you were leaning left or leaning right. I mean, I think even the Wall Street Journal, they're leaning right, but they won't necessarily just completely forget what the truth is. So every now and then they show up something. So it is an incredible moment. Eugene Daniels has put out a statement. He's the president of the White House Correspondents Association. Pretty strong statement, but in the end, I don't think they have any leverage unless they boycott.
Yeah. And that might be something to consider, but like you said, though, that he has his state-run media. He has his those who are going to do his marching orders, his bidding, which is of course Fox News and a few others. So, how effective would that be? The most effective would be if everybody joined in. If Fox News and those others stood up and said, "Wait a minute, we know we're your pets. We know we know we are your PR machine, but we all went to journalism school. We all got into this business, most of us, because we loved it, and we knew we wasn't going to get wealthy off of it.
Right.
But we got into it because we believe that information is power, and the freedom of the press was essential."
Yeah, well, once we got into an area here where we're playing sort of this game, this sort of Les Moonves game of, okay, let's play around with this guy because he's, making us money, and okay, he's making us money, so we'll forgive some of the things that we see, and we're not going to really hold him accountable with regard to the truth. That was a massive, massive mistake because this deal with the devil was bound to, come back to bite everybody. You're making a deal with somebody who's openly standing on stage, criticizing the free press, saying the press is the enemy of the people. There were a few incidents where some of these Trump events where the press pen had been attacked in some way. A guy entered one time, people doing certain things that he was, I think, to some degree instigating. And it is now coming to the fore in this moment because I don't know what their power is other than the major networks would have to be involved in it. And I certainly doubt that they would do it. Like, there would have to
Mhm.
be a pullout of the major networks for it really to matter, I think, to this White House.
Well, I think you now what we're seeing is something that even the White House Correspondents Association never saw coming, and that is the dismantling of the White House Correspondents Association. Trump has never been in love with the White House Correspondents' Dinner,
Right,
which the WHCA puts on.
right,
And I think you stated it many a times. Why did Trump originally run for president?
right,
It was something that happened at the White House Correspondents Association's dinner with none other than Barack Obama.
right,
So I think we are now seeing what is there'll be a dinner in April.
right.
But I tell you, Lauren, I don't see any more dinners.
I see the dinner because it's a moneymaker. I see them, of course, not inviting him. Why? I don't know why they would invite him. I don't, what game are they going to play to act like he should be invited to the dinner when he's effectively trying to dismantle the organization? I don't see how that happens. I do think there needs to be a serious discussion in there with the president of MSNBC and Mark Thompson, president of CNN, because I suspect without knowing, I mean, but we can just tell by what's on the air half the time and what just happened yesterday, which was a purge of MSNBC, right? A
Mhm.
purge that sure as heck looked a mirrored purge. It looked like Doge in there, right?
Yep,
You act
100%.
you basically, your hiring moves are reflecting the Trump administration. Your MSNBC and your hiring moves are reflecting the Trump administration in terms of getting rid of the diverse anchors on the network. I mean, the one that to me was the most confusing was actually Jonathan Capehart. Okay.
Mhm,
Jonathan Capehart is on The Weekend. The Weekend has never been known for big traffic for anybody, no matter who it was.
mhm,
In fact, I've often wondered to myself what would happen if they put Maddow in the 5 o'clock Capehart slot or the 6 o'clock slot or the Sharpton slot. No one is watching TV on the weekend. And they get rid of Jonathan Capehart. Why? Why did they get rid of Jonathan Capehart? Like, it made no sense to
yeah.
me. What are they going to put in that slot? Why couldn't he be in that slot? And if you're keeping Sharpton, why are you getting rid of Jonathan Capehart? So you talk about a Doge like moment. That was
Mhm.
it.
And I also, let's not forget too, Lauren, that quietly, um, in comparison, quietly, Lester
Mhm.
Holt
Right.
has announced that he's stepping down from his nightly news duties, his job. So he's going to stay on at Dateline, but he's given up his news anchoring and news reporting duties. So
Right. Yeah.
interesting.
Right. Right. To do
And
like,
it's not a termination, obviously, because he's gonna stay on that Dateline.
right.
And Lester 65 years old. Lester is probably in a position where he could walk away.
Right.
But I think that there's more to it than him just saying, "You know what? I just wanna focus on Dateline now."
Well, I think the timing is quite interesting, right? First of
Mhm.
all, the timing of doing all these, basically announcing you're letting go all these people at the same time cannot be coincidental. They figured, let's rip the band-aid off and do it at the same time.
Right.
You do on the same weekend. The first thing that I thought of when I heard about the Joy Reid situation was, gee, I wonder, did she know about that weeks in advance? If the reporting by Oliver Darcy is correct, and I don't see anyone disputing his reporting, it was a surprise. I mean, it was
Right.
not, the staff certainly appeared to be surprised, right? There is, of course, a discussion that's been going on at MSNBC about trying to go after people with higher salaries. That's where I think Lester Holt comes in. He's probably got one of the higher salaries. But the timing of it, right? The beginning of the Trump administration, you know that they are vilifying everything that is diverse, everything that is inclusive, and anything that means equity. And you, a news organization that has so many Black viewers, tr- duplicate what the Trump administration is doing right in front of everybody's
Yep.
face. Days after they make their moves, you're making, your moves. That for me is a bit much. And of course, Win with Black Women and Win with Black Men on Sunday night did call for effectively a boycott of MSNBC after the last show of Joy Reid.
Yeah. I mean, Keith Olbermann called out, he used to work for MSNBC. He
Right.
called NBC out, and he was very, very straightforward. He called it a very racist move. getting rid of Joy and others. And he said that they are basically bending the knee to Donald Trump. And it was interesting because he doesn't have a dog in the fight.
No.
We talk about it in the morning a lot. People like him, have that privilege, right? But yet still spoke out and spoke truth to power on that.
Well, he's been going after the other anchors for quite a while, and he did when Tiffany Cross got fired, which was basically a duplication of what we just saw, because Tiffany Cross was like the only person they were really speaking a certain truth to power about what Trump was doing, and everything else in a way that I think a lot of these executives sitting up at 30 Rock are uncomfortable with. I mean, they're just uncomfortable with it. I mean, Chris Hayes, it seems to me Chris Hayes and Maddow do say very similar things. And yet they remain on the air. Maddow, we understand why she remains on the air, because she is getting the highest ratings. That's an easy thing to figure out. But I have a hard time believing that the 7 o'clock hour has a dip, and then the 8 o'clock hour, the traffic and the ratings are going up. I have a hard time believing that.
Come on.
And then
But here's
Gad.
the other thing too. And I think you and I may have touched on this the last time we got together, but the platforms. Uh, there's going to be there is a need, not going to be, there is a need for some alternative platforms, and I'm talking about where these things land, not on Twitter, not on Meta, and right now YouTube is still pretty steady and pretty safe, but will that last, right? So these folks like Don Lemon is doing a great job, right? He's done well for himself since he started his own thing, but it's still not his platform. It's still not a platform in which it's untouchable.
Right. That's right.
So that's the next thing I truly believe is going to present an obstacle for many of us.
Wait.
Somebody says fan base, but
Mhm.
that has to be right. That has to be established somehow with Isaac Hayes. But we say that, and these folks have to make a living. They
Well,
have to make a living.
the money piece has got to obviously be figured out. Clearly, Don Lemon is doing really well. I think he's at 500,000 subs on his show on YouTube, and that's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the thing about Don Lemon, he's got the 2 hours a day. He's got the 10 o'clock. He does the 10 o'clock and he does the 5 o'clock, which is amazing. Obviously, Roland Martin does the 2 hours at 6.
Mhm.
What actually is probably going to happen is we see an implosion. Effectively, I think we're watching an implosion and the end of MSNBC as we know it. Is we're going to see a lot of these progressive platforms get a lot of traffic from that. I would be very surprised if that was not the case from what we just saw with the Joy Reid thing. And then you're getting rid of effectively all of the folks on the left, and you have remaining two people who worked in the Biden White House. And smart and nice though they may be, I suspect that they're not going to find it easy to criticize anything and anyone that they worked with in that White House. The other thing is
Right.
about government employees and people who work with government. And this is without knowing anything about Jen Psaki or Simone's, plans for the future. But what I do find on TV is people who work for the government typically have it in the back of their head that I'm going to work for the government again. So they're not going to necessarily say anything on live air that's going to be critical of the people who might hire them in the future. So that's just
Yeah.
that's not really about Simone and Psaki. That's just a general thing that I notice with a lot of government folks. But this are, I would say, dictatorial, authoritarian move by the Trump White House is going to have a major effect, because you are going to have storytelling from the likes of OAN and some of these other propaganda networks for him that is, I think, going to suppress a lot of what we know is going on in this White House.
Yeah, and again, as someone mentions, that fan base is a broadcasting platform, and Isaac Hayes is doing a tremendous job over there. It may well be that Chuck D's got his Bring the Noise platform. It may well be stuff like that. Hopefully, they are at least sharers in what needs to happen, and what has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think fan base is going to be. I think fan base is huge and gets huger.
Mhm.
And fan
Yeah,
base,
Roland invests in fan base. He's an
right?
investor.
Yeah,
I'm an investor.
yeah.
So
I think fan base is going to just get bigger and better. And as we get into these situations too, where we have somebody like Elon Musk who buys a platform and then platforms and allows the platforming of racism and allows the platforming of bots. When you mention certain topics on X, you see certain bots show up. One of the few reasons that I remain on X is to see the stupidity with regard to the bots. See, okay, let's see.
You gotta watch the train wreck.
Yeah, I just like to see like what is Elon thinking right now, and then I type something in about job loss, and then I can tell what he's thinking. But at any rate, this is a absurd situation. You have a man who was born in Pretoria, South Africa, wielding a chainsaw at an event the other day, and
You have an African American running the country.
yeah, how about that? And you have a president who's absentee and allowing him to do that. It's a strange situation. I maintain, and as we sit here a few hours from the Congress voting on the budget, I maintain that this reaches a critical mass at some point with regard to the issue of people's money and the lack of accountability when you're starting to go after the media, and people see that. People see the threat of on the media, the fact that the information they may be getting, the communications they may be getting are either partisan and accurate or incomplete, as we have seen for years at Fox News. To see the duplication of that inside the White House is going to be scary for a lot of people.
Whole lot of people. As we said at the top, there's no question. There are some folks this first month was hesitant to say or to subscribe to the fact that this man is truly running this like a dictator.
Well,
but these actions, look, it's a show you better than I can tell you that type thing.
Yeah, this is clear. This is brazen. Now this is the playbook of Vladimir Putin. So many other dictators they go after the media. The media is huge in this. We are just in a situation where he is just doing the playbook. He's doing the dictator's playbook.
Right.
Go ahead.
And here's the thing that makes it a little easier for him is that the American media anyway, you can make an argument that global media, but certainly the American media has been on a downward spiral for a long time now. And it has been in trouble for a long time. And so it makes it a little easier for him to pull this nonsense to come in here and say, okay, you're not coming into the White House. You're not going to this. You're not doing that. It makes it a lot easier.
Well, I do think that, again, it was a big mistake, a miscalculation, I thought, in 2016, which was, and really before that, when he pulled that whole nonsense with Barack Obama's citizenship, and everybody was sort of playing along as if there was something to that, and there wasn't. The media likes to feed the machine. That machine that they want to feed is that content is making them money. And increasingly what I'm finding, and it's scaring me, quite frankly, is that they don't seem to care about whether or not the information is accurate. It's just, as long as the information is salacious, it's kind of the Jaguar Wright school of media. I don't care if it's salacious, as long as I get you paying attention to me because I'm saying something crazy and I get that traffic. It's like what was the woman that Cardi B sued?
Tasha K.
Right. Tasha K got sued because I want attention through talking about celebrities and saying stuff that's not true.
And then she went off the rails, and good for Cardi B.
Good for Cardi B is right.
Staying on it.
Right. And of course, in the real world, what would happen is of course, we have Section 230 blocking this, but in the real world, what should happen is that the platforms should be held accountable,
right.
Not just the individuals. Well, when people are deliberately saying things that are not known to be true to make money and get attention, it is an incredible thing. But I think that some of that affect has been brought, some of that feeling has been brought to legitimate media. I mean, it's just we're feeding the machine. We got to put something on. We got to put something crazy on to get everybody's attention. I mean, this situation with Jay-Z, again, was a perfect example. That was out there. And it went around the world. And Once somebody's general counsel at the New York Times decides that we're covered from defamation because it's in a civil suit, that stuff gets published and printed and goes around the world. I mean, it's like an amazing thing when you think about it. All that traffic came in from that, and then the case gets pulled. So
Right.
I think that with Trump, it wasn't that too far from that. I mean, the media was playing footsie with Trump in that 2016, 2017 period. And then we, not realizing that this is the tiger, that is going to come back to bite you, I mean, and
Right.
that's what's
Right.
happening.
And that's a great analogy because that's exactly what's happened.
Hmm.
And like you said, you really saw it with Les Moonves when
Yeah.
he, made that declaration some years
Hmm.
ago, and
Hmm.
um, the rest followed. And they played a game of let's try and catch up with Fox,
Right. That's right.
and it's all been horrendous. It really, when they did that, Lauren, I kept saying, I should say, they're they're stamping some truth on Trump saying fake news,
Right.
because they would come up with stuff and throw stuff out there trying to almost, and I've always said, try to make up for them kowtowing to him during the 2016 election. It was the media, mainstream media. It was CNN, it was ABC, it was NBC, MSNBC, who really gave Trump almost unlimited access to media coverage and having him on their shows, where the other candidates, you barely talked about them.
That's right. That's right. That's
And when
absolutely
they realized, it was one of those things, and I always think about Eddie Murphy, when he told that joke about Harold Washington and Jesse Jackson some years ago, and they tell him you can win, and some drunk white person goes to the poll and votes. I'm just going to vote for Jesse Jackson just as a goof, is what Eddie Murphy said. And next thing you know, all these other drunk white folks voting for him as a goof, and he winds up winning. But you buried everybody else. Trump you had on constantly, and once you realize, oh my gosh, people are actually he's winning primaries.
right.
Then
That's right.
they start
That's
going
right.
after him.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, I remember in that period, like in 2016, where people were getting, there was like violence at some of his events, people getting punched in the
Yep.
face. And right, that's right about the time I think somebody in the media, the big media at least, should have realized, this is a dangerous situation, that we are platforming this person who is saying things from the podium that are easily could be defined by most fair-minded people as irresponsible. And it just got bigger and bigger. And you're right, there was a platforming and there was an amplification, certainly with Morning Joe. I keep hearing the
Yeah.
story that they have suppressed a lot of that video. You talk about
Mhm.
consciousness of guilt. I mean, I just think that was
Yeah.
they platformed Trump, and this is now this is like the backlash of that many years later.
Yeah. Well, truly, truly. And now you're in a situation where you're wondering, is it too late to do anything? Are we ever going to be able to do anything about it? Because um, you hear him talk so much about the third term, tease that third term.
Right,
And remember, he told folks, well, Christians, he said, you'll never have to vote again.
right. Well,
So,
funny
so
thing,
go ahead.
with everything that happens, I always think in my head, is this reversible? Is this reversible? Is this reversible? Things like the Kennedy Center board are easily reversible. The White House pool and the White House Correspondents Association right now has to be very careful, because the only thing that I can think of that reverses this is if you get a Democratic president in office 4 years from now. And if you get a Democratic president, if you get a Democrat 4 years from now, of course, assuming that you have an election at all,
Hmm.
that person is likely to reverse what we just saw a few hours ago. If you get a
Hmm.
Republican, it's not going to reverse, because this is the way they play. They push the line, and they say, okay, are you gonna push back? Are you gonna dare? We saw vestiges of this in Florida with DeSantis at these press
Oh,
conferences,
yes.
where he was telling people, I want only certain press in the room. That was
Yep.
kind of that was kind of a case study. We saw it in Tennessee as well.
Mhm.
We only want certain press in the room, and if you bother me and ask questions I don't like, you have to leave. That was to me a pretty good case study and a pretty good little test run.
It's a great point because it really was, and you see a lot of things that DeSantis was doing, and trying to do, and now you see it on a grander scale, a
Right,
national scale, really. And so, I like that analogy because it's true. And here, you worry, like you said, you get another Republican, and they're not going to change that.
right,
And the way things are trending, as I was saying with this guy teasing his third term, it's probably not going to change. It's a fair bet right now that it's not going to change. But the worst thing that happened here, listen, one of the worst things, perhaps the worst thing, you might be able to name some others, but it was the Supreme Court's ruling. The immunity ruling was
right.
really
No,
what
that's right. That's right.
that was really the the cherry on top. That
That's
was like it closed the door to everything else.
that's right. That's right. To me, that's set into motion by frankly a weak Democratic Party that is not up
Yep.
to the moment.
There you go.
They weren't up to the moment back when they pulled the nonsense of Merrick Garland. They
Yep.
weren't up to the moment when they should have told um, a certain Supreme Court justice that she should probably retire. They didn't want to have that conversation. They ended up paying for it in a huge way with this assumption that Hillary was going to win. I don't know why anybody would assume that one way or the other, and they end up losing the Supreme Court by several seats. And then Trump comes in and picks three people, and he's going to pick another two in all likelihood,
Yeah.
probably next year. Well, actually, probably
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. Game set match.
Right. That was it. That was really it. And
Mhm.
still, we kind of see a continuance of, I think, what I could define as weakness on the part of the Democratic Party. There's a lack of urgency. There's a lack of imagination. There's a lack of meeting the moment. I still maintain that something's up with Jeffries that we don't see, that we'll hear about in a book 10 years from now. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just not feeling it. I just think people are scared. I think there's some fear there. I
Oh,
think,
there's definitely fear.
yeah, I mean,
Fear is a part of it. It may not be the only thing, but it's
right.
certainly a part of it.
I think the fear is justified, by the way. I'm not saying that
Mhm.
as he's a scaredy cat. I think people
Right.
should be fearful, you know.
Right.
So it's a difficult situation. Again, I don't want to act like, oh, this is just so easy to figure out. I mean, it's not easy to figure out. It's something
It's not.
it literally unprecedented, never before dealt with in American history. That you have a president this presumptuous and arrogant that I could just sort of do whatever the heck I want, rule by executive authority, and then wait for the Supreme Court to save me in the end. But the fact that he keeps killing accountability is a huge piece in this.
And you mentioned Jeffries. He mentioned in an interview yesterday, well, we're winning in the courts. You're not. You're not. Why are you saying you're winning in the courts? There's been some small, I won't even call them victories. If judge says, I'm gonna halt this for now. That's not a victory. That's a band-aid.
Hmm.
That's a and even when the even when the judge has said,
Hmm.
okay, you're not going to do this right now. We're going to halt this right now. Um, and there'll be further litigation on it. They have not.
Right.
The Trump administration has not abided by those rulings.
Right.
So you're
Right.
not winning in the
Right.
courts either.
That's the moment of truth, by the way. That's the real moment of truth when they start ignoring federal
Yeah.
judges and court rulings, which to me, I think we're already there.
What did
He
he
has,
say? He
yeah.
said himself
Mhm.
that the president is the only person that can determine what's
Right.
law.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, he's doing whatever the heck he wants to do. I mean, there isn't, I'm not understanding. Like, I don't know what the end game in the world of the CNNs and the CBSs and the NBCs are. Like, I don't know what they seem,
Survival.
yeah, I guess it is survival. They seem to have a posture of, yeah, let's just report on this as if I mean, it's like we're gonna fiddle while Rome burns and not really tell people what's happening, but we're just gonna report on it as if, we're just reporting on it. Like, I'm not I'm not down with that. I'm not getting that. I think that
Yeah.
is really problematic for the media to take that posture of we're just reporting it as it happens. I mean, you know that these things are extraordinary. You know you haven't seen them before. You know that this has never happened before. I think in Eugene Daniels' statement there was a reference to for the first time since 1914, or so.
Yeah, it
we
was.
have we have picked the pool, and now we're not picking the pool for the first time in over 100 years. That's a big deal. I mean, like
Yeah.
that, you should be acting like that's a big deal.
Yeah, here's his exact quote. Since it's founded in 1914, the White House Correspondents Association has sought to ensure that the reporters, photographers, producers, and technicians who actually do the work 365 days of every year decide amongst themselves how these rotations are operated so as to ensure consistent professional standards and fairness in access on behalf of all readers, viewers, and listeners. So he says that they didn't even get a heads up.
Of course they
Uh,
did.
so,
Why would they? Why
right.
would I mean, why would you tell them anything? They just do stuff. And it's a world of it is an amazing thing to watch. The how the different demographics that make a decision get to sort of get away with things, right? He's a white male standing there making these decisions. You know damn well if this was Barack Obama, or if Hillary had become president, if it was President, Hillary Clinton, there's no way that anyone would be sitting here acting as if anyone in the media would be sitting here acting as if, okay, yeah, we'll just watch that happen. There would be bombast, there would be all sorts of things happening. But it's the guy that I think reminds them of their grandfather or their father or whatever it is. And they just first of all, you have the group that agrees with it. So you have the right wing media group that agrees with it. They created their own media. I still maintain they created their own media because they didn't want to deal with the reality of
Right.
somebody like President Barack Obama. So they created a world of media denial, and that was started by Breitbart. And now it's like, yeah, we have to deal with 8 years of watching the fact that our white supremacy theory is incorrect. And so they just created this thing, all of them, Ben Shapiro, all of these people.
Yeah.
You remember they did the thing where, I'll never forget when Shapiro started bringing up George Floyd and he has a heart condition. And it's
Right.
like they have built in this sort of, we're just going to live in another fantasy world. I live in
And by the way,
a.
you know that Derek Chauvin, his appeal has been allowed to move forward, and
Wow.
he's arguing that George Floyd had a heart condition.
Right. Right. Of course he is. Couldn't have been my knee on his neck for 9 minutes. It had to be the heart condition.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing to me. The wanting to undo reality and wanting to undo the truth is crazy. So, anyway, any final thoughts?
Oh, I mean, listen, like you said, I just think that Hakeem Jeffries, if he's not in a position to really speak up in a way that's going to um, be meaningful, I just think that you got to step aside for the uh, those who not only going to speak up but are going to do the work. We see Jasmine Crockett. Seems like she's the lone ranger out there. I know there's others, but not as prolific.
Don't get
But
me
it's
started.
yeah, yeah.
Do not get me started on,
I know.
because remember, the whole thing starts with, of course, their leadership race. And instead
Mhm.
of picking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman from the Bronx, to
Oh
be the ranking
gosh.
member on oversight, instead of picking Jasmine Crockett, the Congresswoman from Texas, to be in a communications position for the House Democrats, they picked Debbie Dingell. And it would be one thing, and I throw age out the window. You could conceivably have somebody older who kicks ass. That could happen, right? And
Right.
yet, what we see in this first 2 months is exactly what we thought we were going to see. When that decision was made to sideline those two younger members who grew up in an age of fast technology, one of whom I believe has 4 or 5 million followers on one of her platforms, that would be AOC. Come on, this should not be difficult to figure out that when you've got a member of Congress in your caucus that has 4 million members on a platform, whether that be Instagram, X, or anything else, you need to use that in this world of media. And the fact that there's got to be an argument over it, a fight over it, and a back and forth, and then they pick somebody, and there's sort of this sort of not so impactful messaging that we're seeing, and they did it again today, in my view, on the House steps. is incredible. It's an incredible thing to watch. It is a sad thing to watch, and it needs to be corrected. It can't go. There is going to be when these people start getting into these people's Social Security checks. That's when it's going to get real. That's when it's going to get real.
Yeah.
Both
Well,
of them.
that starts tonight, right?
Right.
Because
That's
part
right.
of what they're voting on is to cut into that. And look, you paid into that
Hmm.
for somebody to tell you that now it's a handout.
Right.
That's absolutely diabolical.
It's
It's
amazing. It's amazing.
unbelievable. And real quick, Lauren,
Mhm.
one of the viewers said that something else, those voters are not coming right out and saying Trump, they want to put everything on Elon. And that is the other thing. It's always a fall guy. It's always somebody that he can deflect to.
Right.
And they buy into that.
Well, Donald Trump is really good at there's two things he's really good at: standing up in a room and just completely lying with a straight face with no irony attached to it. The other thing he's really good at is everybody just sort of getting hit around him, and then him not getting hit. Is almost like there's a magical force field there. But again, the vehicles of accountability are not there. I think the most serious thing in this moment, these last few weeks, is what happened to the FBI. You've
Right.
got somebody running the FBI, and then you get Dan Bongino in there, which is just beyond laughable. I mean, it's not funny, but it's beyond crazy that these are the people. And the only question I have in my head is, can this be put back together in 4 years? Can it be stopped in 2 years? I actually don't think that the Congress, because he's acting like Congress doesn't matter. So now you need a ruling from the Supreme Court that's already told him he can do whatever the heck he wants. And that's going to be problematic. It's going to be a long 4 years. Everybody knew that. But the question is, can it be undone? The can it be undone question, I think, is if the Democrats going to sit here and go through the motions of the same things that they typically do, events on the steps, press releases and all that, if that's what is the answer, and that's going to remain the answer, that is going to be problematic. They need to revert to a strategy of trying to figure out how they can rebuild what is being destroyed in 4 years. That becomes the question. And it's unbelievable to me and inconceivable to me that the people will allow that to happen, because we're already seeing it at these town halls. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Again, one of your viewers, let's love it. Can we stop pretending this is 4 years?
Yeah, I keep
Listen.
say that, but
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
got to get the pushback for us to stop pretending. And I think again, the pushback is going to come in the streets.
Yeah, without question. Without question.
All right.
And we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, we'll be talking soon. Here you go, doing 2 shows in a 24-hour period. Actually, 3 shows in a 24-hour period.
Okay.
I'm on my way to interestingly, an event to help federal employees in Arlington. I'm going to take a look
Oh,
at
wow.
that. Yeah, it should be very interesting. And
Absolutely.
it went over capacity 5 seconds after the flyer came out. All right, so that we'll see what that looks like. So anyway, Stacey, thanks a lot. I'm Lauren Burke with Stacey Brown. Watch Let It Be Known every morning, 7:30 a.m. It's on YouTube, very easy to find. And if you can't find it, you can see me retweeted probably every morning at
Yes, we appreciate
okay.
that,
I'm
Lawrence.
gonna say on
You do
Twitter.
such a great job.
No problem. So I'll see you soon, all right?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.